Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me today. I'm very excited. Probably you saw already my tweet in the morning, which I posted, that this is my first tech talk. So if I'm not a bit shaky or I'm doing some mistake, please, don't take it so serious. But give us some feedback. I would be more than happy to get your feedback so that I can improve myself. And now I'm really happy that I can share my knowledge about animation and some fun coding with you guys. And so I will start. As I said, my subject and presentation today is about the stunning world of animation in Flutter. And I will start with a small introduction about myself. Who am I? My name is Mahtab Tadayon. I am the founder of Flutter Explained with my partner Max Weber. Probably you saw our videos already in our Flutter Explained channel. So that means I'm creating technical videos for our YouTube channel. And I'm a former industrial engineer who decided a couple of years ago to change her career path and be a self-taught software engineer. And from last year, I put my main focus on Flutter. And yeah, I'm a Flutter developer and I'm enjoying Flutter and I really have fun with that. And now let's see what's gonna be my agenda. So guys, what I want just a minute, I will just change here the screen. Yeah, so what do we have today and what do we want to speak about? First of all, I would like to talk about animation. What are animation at all? And after that, I would like to introduce you the different type of animation that we have in Flutter. As next point, we will come to implicit animation and explicit animation with some example that I prepared for today. And last but not least, we will come to our third-party animation frameworks, which we can use in our Flutter code. And now, without further ado, let's jump into what is animation. So guys, what is animation at all? Animation is actually the illusion of movement which are created by showing a series of still pictures just in a rapid movement. As you can see, like this GIF is also a couple of still pictures which they move very rapidly and we can see this movement of hands and the foot. And now we want to bring such animation in our Flutter code. It's going to be really fun. So let's have a look which type of animation we have in Flutter. Generally, we have two kinds of animation in Flutter. The first type is implicit animation, and the second type is explicit animation. And now we want to understand or have a better understanding what are the difference between these two kinds of animation. An implicit animation has a start point and an end point. And normally it will start and goes in one direction till it reaches its end point. And the last point that we should have in mind is that this sort of animation extends implicitly animated widget. And now, on the other hand, we have explicit animation, which goes forward and backward, which means they don't have one direction and they can be repeated forever. So they don't have necessarily a start and end point. They could be repeated forever. And a major difference between an explicit animation and implicit animation is that an explicit animation will be extended with an animated widget. Perfect. Now we know that we have two types of animation, and now we want to learn a little bit more about implicit animation. So I have listed here a list of many different widgets which we can use out of the box in our Flutter framework. The first type of implicit animation is the animated foo widgets. The foo in this combination stands for all for Flutter widgets that we have already in our framework, and we can use them out of the box. For example, we have animated align, or we have animated container, or we have animated position, container, and so far. They are all animated widgets that they are all Flutter widgets that we can use them normally, and with animated widget that we use here, we can animate them. And at the other hand, we have here the at the last widget is the tween animation builder. So let's see what are these animations. An implicit animated widget is animated version of existing widget, which I already explained you. So we have normally a container as a widget, and in this case, we have an animated container. And with this sort of widget, we can animate their properties. And another thing that we should know is normally we use an animated widget in a stateful widget. And with set state, we will change or we will handle our animation from an old value to a new value. And with that, we can bring some animation and movement in our application. Normally, this sort of widgets have two properties. We can control them, first of all, with duration, which is a Dart instance. And with duration, we will tell our widget how long our animation will take. And the second parameter is the curve. With curve, we control the way that our widget interpolates from an old value to the new value. And now let's see what is curves really in Flutter. Before I explain too much, there is an amazing documentation from Flutter team where you can see different type of curves with their video. For example, I brought here two small videos from the bounce in and bounce in out curves. You can see here that they have different speed of movement. So great. This is curve, and this sort of curves we can use in our animation and bring some changes in our application. I prepared for us a simple application with some amazing animation. So I will show you at first how the animation will work in this application. So I basically click on the button and we have an animation, some animation in the container and in the text. I changed the measure of the container, and also I changed the color of our text, as you can see here. And how I did it. If we have a look here in our code, I use here an animated container. Normally, if we want to create a box or container, we use here the normal container widget. But here I use an animated container. And instead of a normal text widget, I use an animated default text style. And with these both, I can animate the container and the text. And the two properties that we spoke already about them, the first of them is the duration. That means duration, second one, which means that our animation will take 1 second. And with curve is in circ, I define here the type of curve that I'm using for my animation. And I did the same one for the same thing also for my animated default text style, which is the duration. And here at the end, I define the curve that I want to use. And how I change actually, or how I did this animation here, is the code which I used for my button here is a flat button. And flat button has a method which is set state. In the set state, I will change the value of the variable which I defined it here. This variable is a status from type Boolean, and the initial value of that is false. And as soon as I click on my button, I will call in this onPress method, I will change the status of my variable, and with set state, I will update my UI. And this amazing animation will happen in our application, guys. So, perfect. Now we are coming to another type of implicit animation, which is Tween Animation Builder. With Tween Animation Builder, we can animate a property of a widget to a target value, which means if we don't have an animated full widget that we can just use it out of the box, we can use the Tween Animation Builder and bring some animation to other widgets. And with, we can change the property, the value of the property, and we can animate them. For Tween Animation Builder, we have some required parameters and we have some optional parameters. Under the requirement parameters, for example, the first one is a tween. And what is tween? With tween, we define a range of value that we are animating between. The best thing is tween has different types. So we have, for example, color tween, and with that we can define two values, which is, for example, the start of the start point of our tween can be, for example, color white, and the end value of our tween can be, for example, color black. And with tween we can change the color and animate the colors. Or, for example, we can have a tween rect or tween as double. And one thing that I would like to emphasize here is that tweens are mutable. So if you are animate between two values and these values won't change with the time, with always or something in the future, we should declare a final static value for them. Perfect. So far we know what tween is. The next required parameter is a duration. With that, we can tell how long our animation will take. And the last required parameter is the builder. The builder is a callback, which we call every time that our animation value will change. And with that, we will rebuild our Tween Animation Builder. After that, we have some optional parameters. The first one is a curve. With that, we will explain how the animation works or how the changes will happen in our animation. And the last one is a child. What is child and how child can help us? A widget, which the child is a widget which doesn't change its value when we are building our Tween Animation Builder. So we can pass our child in our builder callback. And when we pass a child in our builder callback, with that, we will tell our Tween Animation Builder widget that when you are going to rebuild, this child widget shouldn't be rebuilt. So this is going to be just one time build it, and after that we won't rebuild it again and again. Perfect. I hope you guys now understand how a Tween Animation Builder works. And now let's see how we can bring this animation in our application. So what did I animate here? Sorry guys. So you have seen that here I animate the scale or the measure of our image. And for that, I use a Tween Animation Builder. I'm coming at first to the duration parameter, which help me to define the duration of our animation. The next parameter is the tween, and as I said, the tween is mutable. So I create a variable for that, a static final variable for that, and put it in this variable. A tween from type double with a begin value and an end value. And the next one is a curve, which I decided for ease out quote, and the builder method. This is a callback. The first parameter, input parameter, is a context, which I won't use it, so I will leave it for now. The second one is the scale, which we will animate it. And the third one is the child, which I explain you right now. With this child, I will tell my widget, my tween animation builder, that this child, which I call it here my child, and I will pass it as child parameter of my builder method, that this child shouldn't be rebuilt. And I give this the widget for my child here in above that. I defined it here, and this is actually just my image widget. Amazing. And what my builder method return is a transform dot scale. And for scale, this is what I'm going to animate. Amazing. And this is actually all. And with that, we create our tween animation builder and this great animation. Perfect, guys. So that was already a lot of information. We learned about implicit animation, and let's have a recap for that. Implicit animation are easy and fast to create. They have a start and end point, and they are going in one way. They are really powerful, but they have some limitation that we should consider them. And the best thing is, or the important thing is, that they extend implicitly animated widget. Perfect. Now we are coming to the explicit animation. So I will just have a check with the people who are here in backstage if everything is going well. Not that they are writing me something and they don't get it. Amazing. So I didn't get any message. Perfect. I will continue with explicit animation. In explicit animation, we have 3 types of animations. So the first one is the full transition widgets. The full stands again for some widget, which we have already from Flutter, such as decorated box, and at the end, the transition. The next one is, for example, the fade transition, or we can have rotation transition, and so on and so forth. As next, we want to learn more about animated builder, and as a last point, we want to learn how animated widget is work. Perfect. For an explicit animation, we need always an animation controller. As the name said already, we need a controller for our animation. And an animation controller has a value between 0 and 1. And it's important to know also that animation controller has its own state. Therefore, in our stateful widget, we should initialize our animation controller in its state. And our animation controller takes normally 2 input parameters. The first one is the duration, as I said, how long our animation will take. And the second parameter is the vsync. But let me explain you what is vsync. Vsync is basically keeps the track of a screen so that the Flutter doesn't re-render the animation when the screen is not being displayed. Perfect. And for using the vsync, we need to extend our stateful widget with a single ticker provider state mixin. It's a long name. Or if we use just one animation, or if we have a couple of animation, we should use the ticker provider state mixin. And with animation controller, we maintain the status of our animation, which means we can check the status of our animation and take some action. Perfect. And one of the important things about animation controller is that we should dispose our animation controller. Don't forget that when you forget it, it will lead to memory leaks. Because when you don't dispose your animation controller and you leave your animation widget, the animation will still run in background, and you don't want it, and it will lead to memory leaks, guys. So how we are doing that? We will right here in the dispose method of our Flutter widget, we will call our controller, and after that dispose it with .dispose. Perfect. And now I would like to show you how I used, for example, in this case, the fade transition and create some animation. At first, I will show you how the animation works. Great. In this case, as you saw, I animate here our image that we have. I fade the image. And how I create it, the fade transition has two parameters. The first one is the opacity, which is from type animation double. I will come to it later. And we will need here a child. As a child, I just pass a basic image asset widget with the path to our image. And now, how did I create our animation controller? In the state of our stateful widget, I create a variable, which I call it controller, from type animation controller. And in the init state, I initialize my animation controller. My animation controller takes a duration, which I said pass 2 seconds, and the vsync, which I give it this. And for that, in the state, I just write the width single ticker provider state mixed in, because I use just one animation. And after that, as I said, for I will come back here for the opacity, I need an animation from type double. So I had to create here an animation. I create a variable from type animation, and I call it animation. And in its state, I initialize it. My animation is tween double, and I animate it, and I pass here a curved animation. If you don't pass the curved animation, it will basically use the linear curved as default. But I pass here the curved animation with the parent controller and the curve that I wanted to have. And after that, I call the add status listener and pass the status. This will help me to check the status of my animation and take some action. If my animation is completed, I will call my controller and reverse it. And if it's not the case, I will call the controller and forward my animation. And as you saw, as soon as we change the page, the animation will be started automatically. For that, I just pass, in the init state, I call my controller with forward method to trigger our animation automatically. Perfect. That was an example how you can use a full transition, or in this case, a fade transition. As next, we would like to have a closer look how animated builder widget looks. So guys, if you want to create some animation in your application, and with all widgets and the implicit animations and the full transition that we learned till now, you couldn't find the proper widget for your need, the next widget that can help you is an animated builder. With animated builder, you can basically animate everything. An animated builder has some requirements parameter and again an optional parameter. An animated builder has an animation, and it has again a builder. With animation, we will create it in the init state, and we create our animation. And with builder, the builder method will help us to be called every time that value of our animation will be changed. And the optional parameter again is the child, and the child widget will be passed to the builder so that we refuse to rebuild it again and again every time when our animated builder will be rebuilt. Amazing. So let's see what I create with animated builder, and I will have a sip of water. So I create this amazing animation of wave animation. And how I create that? The code that you can see here is basically an animated builder. As I said, we need an animation. I will come later to the animation which I created. This is a variable which I initialize it, and after that initialize it in the init state. And as a child parameter, I pass here the wave path. The wave path is a clip path with some custom clipper which I created and extracted in my application. And here I have a builder with the builder method. The first one is a context, which I don't use it here. And the second one is the wave child, which is my child. And I won't rebuild it every time. Therefore, as child, I pass it here. And I pass also here the wave path as a child. And here we have a stack with 2 positioned animation. And how I animate actually this wave is to change this wave child that I created here, the right and the left parameters in our position. And with this right and left, the top one will go to the right side and the bottom position will go to the left side. And with that, we have some animation in our waves. Amazing. Now let's have a look and see how I create our animated controller. With the animated controller is again a variable from type animation controller, and I initialize it in the init state with a duration of 10 seconds. With vsync this, and for vsync, I just extend the state of my stateful widget with a single ticker provider state mix in, and I will call the repeat method to repeat my controller. And after that, I have here the animation variable, which is from type animation, and I will initialize it again in the init state. I will give it a tween animation, and I will animate it. And as I already mentioned it, if I pass a curved animation and a new curved animation that I want, the default parameter of the curve is the linear. And don't forget it to dispose the controller in the dispose method of the flatter. Perfect. Now we know how animated builder works, and as last explicit animated widget, I would like to introduce you the animated widget. The animated widget is very similar to the animated builder, but with some major differences. The animated widget, the widget that extends animated widget. This is very important. And this widget will be rebuilt when the value of our animation will be changed. Therefore, we need a required parameter, which is listenable, and our listenable will be listened to our animation. And when the value of our animation will be changed, our animated widget will be rebuilt again. So here I create, or I prepared again, an animation for us, which is the same one as our animated builder. But in this time, I used, instead of an animated builder, an animated widget. So basically, I extract our animated builder as a separate widget, and instead of here extend our class with a stateless or stateful widget, we should use the animated widget here. And now our wave animation will be rebuilt every time when our animation value will be changed. Therefore, one required parameter of animated widget is here the listenable, and I pass our animation to the listenable, so that the value of animation every time when it will be changed, our widget will be rebuilt. And after that, I just delete our animated builder, because a builder in a builder, somehow it's weird, and it doesn't make sense, and we don't need it at all. So we have here our normal widget that I built it before, and extends with animated widget. And it's all. Amazing, guys. Now, we heard much about explicit widget, and now we should have a recap for that. With explicit animation, we can animate almost everything. They will repeat it forever, and they are more complicated. Therefore, we should understand animation controller and the animation. And an explicit animation will extend an animated widget. Perfect. But this is not all animation what we can bring in our Flutter application. We can do still much more. We can use some third-party animation framework, such as Rive or Lottie. So what is Rive? Rive is an interactive design tool. This is an amazing and powerful tool. With Rive, designers or anyone who is interested in some design can create sophisticated interactions or game characters, or for example, onboarding screen or animated screen, and much more. But I want today to focus in another framework, which is Lottie. Lottie, when you're heading to a Lottie website, you will see very often two words, which can be a little bit confusing, at least for me. We can see here the Lottie. Lottie is a file format, and this is a JSON-based animation file format. And Lottie will enable designers to ship animation to any desired platform, such as iOS, Android, and web. And at the other side, we will see the Lottie file world. And Lottie file is the platform where you can test and share this Lottie file and animation that you have. And now I would like to briefly show you how I create some animation with Lottie. So here we go. We have a video here. So I went to the Lottie website, and here I will go to my dashboard. After I'm going to my dashboard, here you can see you have different tabs here. You have tabs for designer or for developer. In developer tab, there are some free animation which are created from the community, and they are for free. So I decided for one of them and download it. They are really very amazing and beautiful animation that you can bring into your application. So I decided for this amazing globe animation, and I just download it as Lottie JSON. Perfect. And what is next? After I download this file, I went to the pub.dev and searched for Lottie. I decided here for this package because of, to be honest, because of the high number of likes and the high score of 98 here. And after that, I went to the installing tab and got the installing pad and see how should I install it. But before I explain you how we can install it, maybe I should mention that the Lottie package works for now just on Android, iOS, and Mac OS, and the web support is coming in future. So, and after that, we will go to the pubspec.yaml and add the Lottie package to our dependencies. And now here, I will show you how I brought this amazing animation in my application with just a couple of lines of code, which is really amazing, guys. So here I create a Lottie animation widget, and this is stateless widget. So not a stateful or something else, just a basic stateless widget. I create here a container because I just want to align it and bring my animation in the center of my page. And after that, as a child of my container, I used here, okay, before that, we should import the package Lottie. And as soon as we import this package, we will access to some widgets from the Lottie, such as Lottie.asset or Lottie.network or something like that, and much more. I think you should have a look and you will learn more about it. And after that, I call the asset and pass the path to my animation, which I downloaded from the website. And that's all actually. And with that, I could bring this amazing animation in my Flutter application. Perfect, guys. So we learned much about implicit animation, explicit animation, frameworks, and much more. And this is amazing. And now we want to have a conclusion. To start with animation in Flutter, you don't need to be an expert, but you can do so much amazing stuff with Flutter that I think it doesn't have a limitation. So you can do more and more with time. When you learn more and more, you can bring much more impressive animation into your application. And you have huge variety of animation in Flutter. So like everything that I introduce you and maybe much more. And one tip that I would like to give you guys is if you consider to bring some animation into your application before you will start with some crazy complex animation, please to consider at first some implicit animation. They are really powerful, and with just a couple of line of code, you can bring so much life and fun into your application. And that's here I just listed some resources that I used for my presentation. And as a last slide, I would like to say thank you guys for listening to me and for having me here. And now let's see if there is any question. I think can't hear anyone. I hope that you can. Yeah, here. No question. Yes, not yet. Perfect. And so I think I read here a question, which is what is that other animation platform? That is Rive and Lottie. These are two platforms, and to be honest, I read a lot about Rive, that many developers are using it already in Twitter. So that was the reason why I decided for Lottie. I was getting past the question. Okay, so I think I will just have a look in the chat and see if there's any other question. Drive, exactly. Are animation heavy on the performance? I think I would say yes. They are more resource hungry, but I think if we manage them well, and for example, we consider to dispose, for example, our animation controller or something like that, the Flutter did a great job, and they will manage many things under the hood. And I don't think that the performance of application will be affected in a bad way. Yes, so. So does excessive use of animation have a negative effect on application speed? I think, in my opinion, as I said, I think if we are using the animation in the right way, they won't affect our application in a bad way. But if we don't consider to implement them in the right way, and with the animation controller or animation and whatever, they could be really resource hungry, and it could be lead to the lack of memory, for example. I hope that you guys could learn something from a presentation. And now, where we can find the slide. So I think I will send them to the backstage guys that are working very hard here, and I think they can give you the link to the resource or to my presentation. Is it right? So I will just ask here in the backstage, is it right? Can you public the link to my presentation? So I don't hear anything else, guys. I hope you enjoyed my talk. Thank you again for having me, and thank you for giving me this amazing opportunity. Thank you, GCDC, and also thanks a lot, Maze, for giving me this opportunity so that I can give my first tech talk. That was really great.
Okay, I think we are live now. Hello, everyone. I'm Mace from Women Tech Makers Saudi Arabia. I'm so happy that you are all here and following up with us in this event, 6 days of fluttering. So, my session today, I chose to make it live coding. It's the first time for me, so please no judging. I think some errors and bugs are going to show up as usual. So we will try to do our best I'll try to do my best to explain how we can get and display data from an API. Okay. And for that, let me at first show you the end result that we will be creating this time. So I got my phone here. This is the final application. As you can see, it's an application that will display a list of codes, programming codes. So this list has cards, and in each card there is a code and an author name. And this button, when I click on this button, as you can see, a snack bar appears that tells me this code has been copied to the clipboard. And when I press on this button, it will give me a random code. Each time I can copy it as well. Each time I press on this button, it will give me a different random code. So we'll be creating an application. First, let's see what API we will be using. So I've been like going through the public APIs that I could found, and I found this interesting API, simple enough to do a 1-hour session. It's a programming codes API. It has a lot, like a couple of public routes, and I chose it to be public so we don't go through the authentication stuff. And from all these routes, we will be using two routes or two endpoints. And the endpoints we will be using, the first one is this one. I will get all the codes by English language. So the second one is the codes/random. Of course, I'll just put the language to English. So let's see. If we call the codes/lang/ing, we'll see that we have a long list of codes. Let's just examine the first one. Here is the first code. You can see that it's actually a list of maps. Okay, this is a response we will be getting from this route. And it has an ID. It has a key, EN, that has this, this content or this code. And the other key we'll be using is author. And it has the name of the person who said this code. The other route is gonna give me, or the other response will be just one single code. And each time I refresh, you can see that each time we get a different code. Okay, this is what we'll be using to show the random code from that button. So by that in mind, this is the host, like the host of the API that I'll be connecting to. Let's get started by coding. So I will remove this app and let's get to our starter application. As you can see, it's just a scaffold that has an app bar and a button. And this button, right now, it does nothing because I haven't written any code yet. And here there is a list, but it's empty. Okay, so let's get started. At first, I will examine with you the project structure. I already created all the files. Some of them are empty, like it has no code yet, but we will be going through each step, okay? So I'll get this a little bit more clear. You can see that we got 4 folders. The first folder is the backend folder. And in this folder, I will put all the code regarding my API. So it doesn't get mixed with my UI code. And this is the first best practice we can do when we start with Flutter. to learn how to split or put the code of the business logic outside our UI. We can follow any design pattern we wish, but for now we will keep it simple, okay? But you will notice that when your application gets bigger, if you put your logic or the business logic inside your UI files, everything is gonna get so messy and it will be so hard to maintain. So I just created this folder to hold all the logic for my API. And then we have the components. It will has only one component, as we said in the full project example. We saw cards, and each card is just a single stateless widget. I composed it by putting some widgets together, and I got my custom widget, which is a code card. And then I have models, and the models will contain the class that I will be using to create code objects. Of course, I won't be like taking the map as it is and display it. I need to take the data from the API, the map that we saw, and convert it or manufacture it to a code object so I can use it much better. Okay. Then we have the pages folder, and inside the pages folder, we got only one page, which is the codes page. The whole application is just one page. And then we have the app, okay? Let's start from the main.dart. I'll get this just a little bit smaller. I hope everything is clear. So we have at first our main function, and you can see that, or you can notice that I put my main function alone inside the main.dart file. And this is another good practice, to keep your main function always alone in the main.dart file. And then we run the application. We go to the file that says app.dart. And here is the root widget of my application, the material app. And just a simple material app, nothing fancy here. And then we have the home. And the home is the first page I wanted to show when I launched the application. So this is the codes page. So let's go. I won't go to the codes page to show you the code there. It's actually still kind of empty. We'll start by configuring our API, okay? And for that, we'll start from the API.dart. Here we will put all the information about my API. We'll start by writing class API, and inside the class we will need a constructor. Well, simply it's an empty constructor. And to configure the host, I'll use a static final string host equals the host I just copied from the API page. And why did I use static? Well, simply when I declare a variable as a static, I say that this variable can only be accessed by this class, not the instances of this class. So this means my host will stay just right inside my class. The instances I create across the application will not have access to this host, and this is much better for security, you know, because sometimes you need to put a port number, you need to put some sensitive data that you don't want to make it available to all widgets inside your application. And then to declare my endpoints, as we said, we have two endpoints. The all endpoint, like code/lang/en, and that will get me a long list of codes. And the second endpoint is the random endpoint, and it will give me, each time I call it, a new random code. And for that, I'll create an enum. I will say what enum means in a second. This enum will be endpoint, and it will has two variables or two constants, which are all and random. Okay, what does an enum mean? An enum is simply a class, okay? But a class with a predefined set of constant variables, okay? Constant values, sorry. So this is like we can think of it when we are defining the weather conditions. If you have a weather application, the weather conditions are either maybe rainy, maybe sunny, maybe foggy, all these different conditions of a weather. We can declare them as in enum, like enum weather, and then we define the different conditions of a weather. So now we need to connect each endpoint to its path, like the path I will be going to get my data, or I will be requesting to get my data. And that will be a map that will has an endpoint as a key and a string. It will be paths equals a map. So let's assign the all endpoint to its path. Let's check the path. The all endpoint has a path of code/lang/en. Why didn't I copy the whole path? Well, because I already got it defined here. I won't repeat myself. Okay, so endpoint.random. Also, let's check the path. And this path is code/random/lang/en. I'll just remove the first slash here. Okay, now we assigned each endpoint to its path. Now, last thing is I want to get the endpoint. Route or URI when I call a function that is called URI endpoint. Get endpoint URI. Okay, endpoint. I need to give this function an endpoint, and it will return me the URI that I can access to request data from this endpoint. So this endpoint will return a URI, and this URI will has a scheme. A scheme is simply the HTTPS, and then it has a host, which is the host we defined earlier, and then a path, which is paths. I will go to the path with the endpoint. With the endpoint, I'll be given to this function. So right now, everything is set up for the API. I can now move to the API service, and the API service will act like something between the API and the UI. It's the place where will I get the data and turn them to a list of codes. I'll get the data as JSON, and then I will turn them to a list of codes and catch any possible errors, and then pass this data to my UI so I can display it. Okay, so class API service, and inside the API service, I'll need a constructor. And to use the API service, I need to provide it with an API. Okay, of course, I imported it here, and I need to define that in my constructor. Amazing. So inside the API service, there will be only one method, which is future. The return type of that method will be a future of type list code, a list of codes, and that is get endpoint data, and I'll give it an endpoint, so to point out what endpoint I want to get data from, and then I'll mark it as async since I'll be doing some connection inside, so it needs to be async. And then the first thing we need is to get our URI. Where did we define that method? Well, URI equals API.get. Yep, that was in our API class. And we give it the endpoint. Okay, amazing. So it's complaining here saying that the name code isn't a type, so it can't be used as a type argument. Why is that? Let's see. We didn't import it. We didn't import the code model. Okay. After I have my URI, well, actually, you know, I need the URI to be a string. Okay, so I will turn it to a string, and then I will start making a call to the API. And to do that, I need a package, and there is a package in Flutter for that. You will go to pub.dev, and we'll search for HTTP. It's one of the most used packages in Flutter. It's written by the Dart team, so it's like, so how we can install it? Let's copy the dependency. We go to the pubspec.yaml, and we'll paste it here right under the Cupertino icons package. You should know that spacing is very important in YAML files. Yeah, amazing. Now we have our HTTP. We need to import it in order to use it. http/http.dart. I will give it an alias, so using it will be more easier. Okay, amazing. Now we will define our response, the variable where I will store the response that will come from the API. And of course, since it's a connection, it will needs time to go and come back to me. So I need to wait for it. That's why I marked my function as async. So I'll await for http.get, and I'll give it the URI. Amazing. So now, if I got a response, the response will be having a response, okay? But if I didn't get a response, like there was no internet connection, or there was some error in the server, then the response will be null, okay? So I will mark the response as, I would say, if the response does not equal null, the value of type pool, who cares? If the response does not equal null, what's wrong here? A value of type can be assigned to await http.get. Okay, what's wrong here? Oh, sorry. Wow, such a mistake. Okay, so if the response does not equal null, I will do something with that data. But if it was actually null, then I will throw the response to be like an error. I'll throw it so I can catch it somewhere else and act upon that. So if the response does not equal null, what I'll be doing here is I'll define a final parsed JSON. I'll take the JSON I got, okay, and that I would use the JSON from the convert package, and I will decode it so I can use it. Response.body. The response contains many things like headers, length, and all this stuff. I just need the body where my data lives. So now I have my parsed JSON. I need to go to iterate over each item in my JSON or in my list to get, like, to turn that map we saw earlier into a code model, okay? For that, we need to go a little bit to the code, and we can see that the model actually is still empty. So let's configure it. We need a final string content where we will store the content, and we need to give it another property, which is the author, and we need to make a factory constructor. A factory constructor from JSON, and I'll give it the JSON. Let me just write the code, then I can explain it. Dynamic JSON, and this will be content equals JSON en, as we saw that the key was en, and then we have the author equals JSON author. Then I can close it. Okay, here we say content. Yep. Amazing. So when I call this constructor, it will take what I give it, like the JSON, and it will turn it to an object, to a code object, and will set the content to be the JSON. Like we'll take the JSON EN value, this one, you see, this one, this key. It will take it, and then it will take the author as well. Here is the author, and it will assign it to my object, and this way we will have a code object. Let's close this and let's start parsing. So I would say final, what do you call it? Map, because I'll be using parsed JSON dot map, and well, to do that, I actually need to say list code dot from, and then I can say parsed JSON dot map, and map each JSON into, I will use the constructor, the factory constructor. Map each JSON into, like, I'll use this function. This function will iterate over the list, and it will take each map and turn it to a code object. And after that, it will be a list. Like I want to cast it into a list, since we can see that the return type is a list of code. And then we will say return map. Perfect. I think it will give me an error because I think I forgot something, but we will see later. There is one thing. You can see that the response from the random code is not going to be the same response as the all, okay? Because here you can see that it's actually gonna, if I applied the same logic, it's gonna iterate over each key, okay? Which is not what I want. So I'll create here I'll remove this map, and I'll create a condition to say if the endpoint equals endpoint dot all, then do this logic for me, okay? And I'll return this from this here, and then I'll say if the endpoint, on the other hand, equals endpoint dot random, which will be slightly different parsing, I'll say here final map equals, now notice what I'll be doing. I will say code, okay, code from JSON, and I will pass it the parsed JSON 0. No, I'm sorry, it's not a list, okay? And then I will return the map. There's an error. I need to cast it into a list. So I'll say list of code dot from, and I'll give it just one element. So it's actually, when I request the endpoint dot random, it will give me only one code, and I'll create a list of that, okay? But that list will contain only one item. So right now, I think we are fine so far. Yep. So let's go to the codes page. And we can see that I get a couple of to-dos here to guide me through the code. So the first thing is we got an empty list of codes. At first, I will get the codes from the server, and I need to assign them to a variable so I can use them. Okay, so I made my variable, which is a list of codes, and then I made another variable to hold the random code. Amazing. So now I have here another variable, another Boolean, which is loading random. Okay, the loading random at first, like I'll use it to say when the loading random, when I'm loading, like when I click on this button and I load a random code, I wanted to set this variable to true. So I can disable this button while I am fetching the random code, so the user doesn't click on it again. I don't want it to make another request while I am processing the first request. Okay, so at first it's still false. I'm not loading anything. And the final variable here we can see is a boolean of type, a connection of type bool, and it's set to true. Like by default, I'm assuming that there is an internet connection. And when we get an error, like when some error throws, like the response is null or something, I will set this boolean to false. And then we have our init state, and we can see here that I will get my data in the init state. Actually, I'm not using future builder here, okay? I'll get the data inside the init state because I don't want to get my data inside the build method. If I was to use the future builder, it's gonna try to fetch my data during the build, okay? Which is something I don't want. I want to fetch the data before the build method starts. So I'll be doing that inside the init state. We have the get data function, but there's no log here yet. So I'll start typing it. To get a data, I need to give it an endpoint. And you can see that I'm actually using the type endpoint everywhere, which is something, it makes everything easy for me. I don't need to write it all over again, the logic, okay? So I'll say here endpoint dot all. I want to get all the data at first. And then we start by defining an API service. We can start getting the data that will equals API service, and we need to give it an API. And then we will say, we will define a final codes that will equal, and of course it will await for the result from the API. So API service get endpoint data, and I'll give it the endpoint I want. And then I'll say set state. Here we will have a condition. If the codes equals 1, if codes.length, okay, if the list has only one item, then I will set the random code to equal codes 0. This is the condition when I will be calling the random endpoint, at which I will have only one item in my list, and I'll assign it to the random code variable. Else, okay, we will set the codes to equal the codes we will get from the server. Amazing. So far, we are doing great. We need to check for errors, and for that, we need to use try block. We need to put our logic in a try block, because as you remember, we are throwing a response if things went wrong. So we'll catch the error if something went wrong, and we'll set the state of the connection to be false. So now let's just move a little bit down. We can see that we will have a function that is called show random code. And this function will display that alert dialog that will contain the random code and the copy button. And when I click on that button, I will copy the content of the code. Okay, so let's start by checking a simple check to check if there is no connection, like something has happened. If there is no connection, we will show a snack bar. Okay, I guess no. Let's say scaffold dot of context dot remove. I need to remove if I have any snack bar, and then show a new snack bar that will have a snack bar, and it will have content, and in that content we have text that says, let me just close that and format it. Yeah, the text will say there is no connection. Okay, but if there is, like else, if there is a connection, what we will do here is we will have a final result that will equals a wait show dialog. Okay, and it will take the context and then a builder, and inside that builder, we will return our alert dialog. Perfect. So we will use two properties of the alert dialog. First one is the content, and at which we will have a padding, each so all, maybe 10 is enough. And then we will have a child, and that child will be a column. Okay, children. Let me just reformat it. Okay, and children will be a text at which we will have code dot content. Okay, but we didn't actually pass the code. Oh, sorry, it's not the code, it's the random code. Yep. Then we'll have a sized box to create some little spacing between the text, and that will be maybe 10. And then we will have a text, another text to show the random code dot author. Amazing. So by that, I think we are done. Yeah, there's one thing left on our alert dialog. We need to have a button, and that button will be inside the actions. A flat button, unpressed. When I press that button, I wanted to copy the content, okay? And for that, I'll use clipboard dot, no hash code, of course. I just need to import it. Yeah, clipboard dot sit data, okay? And this will take a clipboard data. And here, am I writing this wrong? Yeah, this has to be a small b. And clipboard data will be a text, and that text is gonna be like this. It will be at first the random code dot content, and then a column, and then random code dot author. Let's close that. Great. So after I copy the data, I want the alert dialog to like go out. So I'll use navigator. I will remove it from the navigator stack. So of context dot pop, and I will pass a true. Okay, because why would I say true here? Because when it's true, okay, here, because if that result equals if result, it will be true result, then we will show scaffold dot of context dot remove current snack bar dot show snack bar, and snack bar content will be a text. That text will say copied to clip, that is the clipboard. Great. So let's remove the to-dos here. I think we are okay till now. So where we will be using the show random code is when we click on this button, right? So let's go to the button. Where is our button? Here is our button. Okay, I already got some UI code here, so we don't take time since we got only 1 hour. And here we will make a little check, which is if the loading random is going on, okay, it's true, then I'll set the unpressed to null. And setting the unpressed property of a button to a null will make it disable, will disable it. so I can't click on it and make another request. So, and if it's not null, we will call show random quote and we will give it the context. Great. I just forgot here that when I have here, I need to set state the loading random. I started like loading things, so I'll set it to true. And once I finish and I get the result, oh, sorry, and let me copy that. Once I finish and get the result here, okay, right here, I'll set it back to false. So I have my button. Oh, what's that? Enabled again. So great. Let's just see what we can do also. Yeah, let's remove this to do. We are done with it. So let's come to this. It says here we need a mechanism to refresh the page, okay? And to do that, like I want to refresh the page. I got the data in the initial state, then it won't be refreshed, okay? I want to give the user the ability to refresh the data. And to use that, there is an amazing widget called refresh. I hope it's called refresh. Yeah, refresh indicator. Amazing. So refresh indicator will take an on refresh, and on refresh, I will call get data and I will give it the endpoint.all. You know, we forgot something. Here, I need to get the data. So I will say get data, but now I will give it the other endpoint, which is not all, random. Perfect. So what else we have got? We have implemented the refresh indicator, and now when the list of codes is still empty, that means we are still loading, okay? So I will use the if collection here inside my stack and check if the codes though is empty. No, sorry. Here I will check for the connection, okay? If there is no connection, I will display no connection. I will display a text, center text, center child text that says there is no internet connection, or there is no connection. There is an error maybe. Looks more. Okay. And here, let's go to our codes list. We can see that we has a column that has a flat button, and inside and here in the left space, we have a codes list. That codes list is wrapped inside and expanded to take all the available space. If I remove the expanded, it's gonna give me an error saying that the list view doesn't know its limits, like it's infinitely. It doesn't know where to paint itself, okay? So inside the list view, we need to make a small check, okay? That is, if the codes dot is empty, our codes list is empty, then we will display a center child circular progress indicator. I'll display that circular progress indicator to show that the codes or data are still loading. And actually, I need to give it another. Like if I have a connection, I'm sure that nothing is going wrong. I'm just still waiting for the data to be assigned to my codes variable, so, or to my codes list. So, and then here we will iterate over the codes using the for collection, the collection for. So you say code in codes. Here there is a comma. So for every single code inside my codes list, I will display a codes card. I think Codes card, is it written right? Codes card. Let me get back to my components. Yeah. Code card. I'm sorry, it's code card. Let's import the widget. So the codes card is gonna take a context and it's gonna take a code, which is the code I'm iterating through. Let's save that. We'll need to refresh the page. To hot restart. Wow, we get a code, okay, but we are not getting the content. Let's see what went wrong. If codes.length else set the code. So let's just print the data we are getting from the server to make sure that everything is going right. So let's print the map here. Print the map. We are now debugging. This is a boring development show. Okay, I can see that I'm actually getting the data. Okay, so let's try to display the content of the first code to see if we are having any content. Yeah, we are having content. So what's wrong? Let's get back to our codes page and API service.get endpoint, and we are setting the data to be codes. Let's print the data here. Print codes 0.content. Also, we are getting some data. So, oh, I can recall what's wrong. I'll now go to the code card, and inside here, I actually didn't read, like, you can see that I'm actually displaying an empty list. So I'll remove this to do. And here, as I'm passing the code to my custom widget, I'll say code.content, and here I'll give it the author. Let's just copy this here and paste it here and change that to the author. Great. Oh, here we have our list of code. And when I press on this, it should be copied to clipboard. Okay, let's make sure that it's actually copying data. Let's go, for example, to the message applicate messages, and let's try to paste it here. Oh, okay. Seems like we are not giving, yep, here. I haven't uncommented. We need to, because I have got a copy code function inside my code card. This function will set the clipboard data to my code, okay? And then we'll display the scaffold that will have, like, it will tell me that the clipboard, the data have been copied. Let's get back to our application, Flutter API, copy it again. Let's try again. Messages. Paste. Yep, amazing. You can see that we have the code, and then we have a comma, then we have the author. All are going well. So let's get back to the application. Okay, now let's try to see if our random code button is working fine. Let's click. Oh, we have errors. So let's get back to our codes page and see what went wrong. It's saying that the getter content was called on null. So why was it called on null? Of course, because I'm checking for the codes, not the local variable codes. So I will hot restart and click again. Oh. Random code equals, let's print this. I'm pretty sure that everyone is bored now. I'm really sorry. I wanted this to be, whoa. Let's refresh that. Again. Why is this error showing up? Are we awaiting for the dialog? Yep, we are awaiting. We are not awaiting for get data. So let's await for it. Yeah, we can see when I refresh, actually it gets the data. That what happens when I try to, yeah, here we are. The alert dialog looks so long. Let's set our column. Let me just, yep. Where is our column? Yep. We need the main axis size to be main axis to min, so it doesn't take up the whole space, the whole vertical space. So let's refresh that. Yep, great. So now we need to, I need it to be the cross-axis alignment to be cross-axis alignment to start, and then we need to have a button. Where is my button? Oh, I haven't given it a child. So the text here is copy. Good. Oh, I think I have set. Why is it? Okay. Now let's get a random code again. Yep, it's perfect. When I click on copy, it says copied to clipboard. Well, let's make sure, is it actually being copied to clipboard? Let's paste that again. Yep, it's being copied to the clipboard, and that is amazing. So, yep. And you can see that the button, when I click on it, it disables, and then when I click copy, it enables again. Let's try another. If I click outside of it, yep, there is an error here. Boolean expressions must not be null. To solve this error, we can see that if result does not equal or equals true, I think. Yeah, let's try now. Get me a random code. Yeah, amazing. We are now having, it was giving me this error because I'm checking for, like, I'm saying if true, okay? If result, I'm saying if true or if false. And the if statement does not accept like null values. And in the case that I'm pressing outside, like here, outside of here, the navigator is not returning a true. Thus, here, the result variable or the result variable, yeah, is not being assigned a true. It's being null, okay? So that's why it was giving me this error. And let's check the last thing in our application, which is bool to refresh. Great. So now we finished everything. Everything is amazing. We finished our application. We have set the API service, and you can see that our code is so clean. Not so clean, there are more best practices to do, but the most important thing I wanted to focus on in this session is how we can split our API logic and API service code from our UI code. And I hope that everyone enjoyed this session, though I was actually debugging at the same time. Thank you all for coming in. I actually need now to check to see if there is any questions. Please, if there is any questions, leave them in the chat. Let me check. 1 minute. So and yeah, of course, the link to the full project will be sent on the chat. Yeah, I think it has to be sent on the chat right now. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Yep, I guess here's one on the live chat that noticed my mistake with the not equals. Amazing, thank you. That was fantastic. I did not know that there is a clipboard object. Yeah. Is there a limitation to the clipboard on mobile devices? I don't know, but as you said, as you saw, that we can only assign a string to the text. Like we can only copy text, as I think. I don't know if there are other things that we can do. Depending on the device and the size of the RAM, the clipboard size is also changing. That is Max. Push even more to think about when supporting multiple devices. Yeah. Thank you, Max. Yeah, that was the Flutter. That was my version from the Flutter boring development show. No other questions? Yeah, you can see that the full project is on the chat. And yeah, I wanted to talk about this really amazing, let me just code with Andrea. Yeah, here it is. This really amazing course that inspired me to do this session, which is Flutter and no, it's not Flutter and Firebase. This one, REST API Crash course. It's so amazing course. Well, it's showing me it exists on Udemy too. I sent the Udemy link on the chat. It's by Andrea Bizotto. He's a Flutter GDE, and it's an amazing course. I really, really recommend it. And I really recommend codewithandrea.com, where there is a lot of amazing content about Flutter and well explained. So thank you so much for tuning in today with me. That's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.